For millions of Americans, the so-called golden years will actually be years of despair and uncertainty. And it's very likely that you are one of those that will never be able to stop working and finally retire. But you're not alone in this. Over 90% of working households in the U.S. do not meet retirement savings targets for their age and income. In fact, even the people that did absolutely everything right throughout their working years are still at risk of seeing their savings vanish as financial markets experience the worst downturn since the Great Recession. Interest rates soar, and record inflation means the value of their money is steadily dropping. New data shows that the country's unfolding retirement crisis just took a massive turn for the worse. Crippling stock market losses, cracks in the U.S. pension system, and the growing Social Security deficit are all combining to create increasingly harder conditions for workers to save for retirement and to maintain their living standards at retirement age. In other words, the promises that were made for all of us that we would be rewarded for the efforts we made during our years of hard work with financial security were actually a lie. In today's America, the only options given to the vast majority of workers are either work until you die or brace for poverty. That's why today, we're bringing you the cold, hard stats that expose the dire future we're doomed to face as the system fails each and every one of us. Before moving on, please support our work with a thumbs up and don't forget to share and subscribe. You're probably going to have a much harder time retiring than your parents and your grandparents. And that's because the retirement system they enjoyed decades ago has been broken and now has started crumbling down all around us. According to the National Institute on Retirement Security, even though employer-sponsored retirement plans are one of the most important methods of saving for retirement, 50% of private sector workers in the U.S. don't have access to pension or 401k plans, and about 40% of the population has zero savings for retirement. And the vast majority of those who do have 401k plans do not have a solid financial cushion to fall back on. IRA data reveals that some 92% of working households do not meet retirement savings targets for their age and income. Even when counting their entire net worth, 65% still fall short. Now that's quite a big issue considering that today's workers plan to live to age 90, according to a survey conducted by Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies. On the other hand, 41% have taken no steps to start saving more, and 45% think they might outlive their savings. No matter what retirement plan people choose, the level of savings is discouragingly low, and this means most workers have really small chances to actually outpace inflation during their senior years. Today, 48% of Americans have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. More worryingly, 1 in 5 baby boomers that are now reaching retirement age have less than $5,000 in retirement savings. And they'll need about 240 times that amount to be able to retire and keep pace with the rising cost of living and soaring healthcare costs, as noted by financial analysts at research firm Ramsey Solutions. No wonder why a third of seniors say they either plan to work through the age of 70 or never retire, according to a study by BlackRock. The United States is definitely facing a retirement crisis, stressed Nari Ree, a director of the Retirement Security Program at the UC Berkeley Labor Center. If we don't do anything about it, years down the line, you're going to wind up with a lot more seniors in poverty and reliance on public services. The health crisis, global geopolitical conflicts, interest rate hikes, as well as an imminent recession, have all led to significant turmoil in the market, which has wiped out millions of retirement savings accounts. But persistent inflation is rapidly becoming the most disruptive force. If you're retired and on a fixed income, inflation really hurts REITs. We've come out of decades of historically low interest inflation to all of a sudden pretty substantial inflation, especially in things that matter to people, which is food and fuel. Estimates released by BMO Harris Bank revealed that $1 million put in a retirement account just 2 years ago is now worth about $120,000 less when adjusted for inflation. And with that financial backdrop, a quarter of Americans say they're expecting to delay their retirement due to rising consumer costs. Furthermore, Rees says that those who are counting on Social Security benefits may be set for some bitter disappointment. The U.S. retirement system was structured so that retirees could count on 3 sources of income: Social Security, pension benefits, personal savings, the expert explains. But many people expect Social Security retirement benefits to fund a portion or all of their retirement. The reality is that the program is now facing a 75-year deficit, and in theory, it was never intended to fully support workers in retirement, even though 44% of retirees say it is their primary source of income, according to a survey by the Employee Benefits Research Institute. Those resources are being depleted right now, and by 2033, the government benefits program will only be 3/4 financed, which means that we have a little more than 10 years before this crisis hits its peak. The Social Security Administration highlights that both Social Security and Medicare are facing long-term financing shortfalls under currently scheduled benefits and financing. But more than 1 in 4 baby boomers incorrectly assume that Medicare will pay for long-term care costs, according to a report by the Insured Retirement Institute. That's an association for the retirement income industry. Needless to say, they're going to get desperate when they find out that the programs they are relying on will be breaking down exactly when they need it the most. At this point, many younger workers are already getting desperate too. They are realizing that even if they start saving early, those benefits that would help them to maintain their living standards when they get older may not be there to support them anymore. Christine Vieira, 32, a stay-at-home mother of 2 and a former legal secretary from Danvers, is not optimistic. Her husband, a carpenter and warehouse manager, has a retirement annuity through his union. She plans to work in a few years and will put aside money for retirement. But Vieira expects that Social Security will have vanished by the time she and her husband retire. The volatility of the stock market also scares her. Even if Social Security is still available when Vieira retires, the benefits are gradually declining. In 1990, Social Security benefits replaced 47.2% of the pre-retirement income of the average worker. That will slip to 30.7% by 2030. The scheduled reductions will severely hurt middle-income families, says Alicia Manel, director of the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College. She's even more concerned about the toll the cuts will have on 50% of workers who don't have 401k plans or company pensions. But the truth is that not even pension plans, considered the gold standard for retirement safety, can actually provide the financial security they once did. Over the past decade, we've seen pension investments shift from relatively safe holdings toward riskier assets. Although investing in assets such as hedge funds, private equity, and alternative investments can increase returns, these investments are also hit especially hard during economic recessions. But way before things started falling apart after the pandemic disrupted our economy, the nation's pension plan system was facing many challenges, and over the past couple of years, they've only gotten worse. In 2020, the public pension system lost $1 trillion, a 21% loss for the fiscal year. Consequently, These losses have added an overwhelming amount of stress on our public pension systems, as state and local pensions were already facing a $4.1 trillion shortfall. Public pension liabilities are on track to increase to $1.62 trillion this year, up from $1.35 trillion in 2019. In the first 2 quarters of 2022, another $300 billion loss has ensued. In its annual State of Pensions report, Equitable Institute, a nonprofit that provides public pension research and information, found that in the fiscal year ending in June 2022, the aggregate funded ratio of statewide and municipal public pension plans dropped by 7.9 percentage points, marking the largest single-year decline in the funded ratio since the 2008 financial crisis. The second year of 2022 was historical, but for all the wrong reasons, Wilshire President Jason Schwartz noted. If you look back 50 years, you'll be hard-pressed to find another quarter where global equities were down by double digits, and investment-grade bonds were down 5%. Since the beginning of October, the stock market rout is only accelerating, with over 1,000 bubbly stocks crashing by 80% or more. With 2022's market conditions, Schwartz said public funds are in for a tricky situation. Those crippling stock market losses are threatening the finances of workers in all income and age groups, a USA Today CNN Gallup poll has shown. And nearly half of those saving for retirement, or 46%, say they will have to postpone retiring because of the collapsing stock market. But stock market losses are just one symptom of a larger crisis, many experts say. The conclusion of several recent studies is that regardless of the plan they have, many workers will be shortchanged in retirement. Most experts say retirees need 75% to 80% of their pre-retirement income. Yet more than 40% of middle-aged households won't be able to replace even half of what they made on the job, according to a study by the Economic Policy Institute. Nearly 20% will have retirement incomes below the poverty line. The study does not even take into account the bear market. On top of that, new research on the retirement security of workers in Kansas found that the shortfall between retirement income and the cost of health care, the cost of food, and the cost of housing for the elderly in Kansas could reach $700 million a year by 2031. We've got the makings of a disaster, says Christian Weller, a retirement specialist at the Economic Policy Institute. A lot of people will reach retirement in despair, he continued, adding that the outlook is especially grim for middle-class families. The average American household has virtually no chance to reach adequate retirement savings in the next 50 years, he added. No matter how households' needs in retirement are projected or how their incomes, assets, and debts are measured, an unacceptably large share of Americans appears at risk of being forced into a lower standard of living in retirement. The most convincing estimates of the share of households who will have insufficient assets stand at slightly more than 50%. And the biggest problem isn't that people don't want to save, it's that they don't have any money to put toward retirement. Over 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. More than 7 in 10 carry some form of debt. 52% are struggling to make ends meet every month. 20% have missed payment on some bills in the past year. And with 56% believing they will always be in debt, it makes for the perfect storm. High debt, no expectation of change, and rising interest rates mean that once these workers cover living expenses, they don't have any money left to invest or to put into a savings account. No matter where we look, the retirement system just is not working for a lot of Americans. Things weren't supposed to be like this. Our population developed under the implicit social contract that if you worked hard for a company, you'd be rewarded with financial security in retirement. Of course, there were always gaps in the retirement system, but today, the social contract is on shakier ground than ever, many experts say. It's an untold secret, emphasized Karen Ferguson, director of the Pensions Rights Center. You can work a lifetime and do everything right and still not be able to pay your bills in retirement. The fact that in the wealthiest country in the world, millions of people face the prospect of great financial strain and even poverty in old age because they lack the resources to support themselves after they stop working is truly alarming. This crisis is going to be absolutely devastating for our society. Retirement is considered the final chapter of the American dream, but it's clear that the dream of the golden years is quickly turning into a fairy tale for our hard-working population. We hope you have found this informative. Please share it with family and friends, and we look forward to your comments below this video.